Two Worlds 2 is an open-world action RPG developed by Reality Pump Studios and published by Top Bear Interactive in 2011 in North America. Two Worlds 1 was hyped up to be one of those blank killer games like Halo to Call of Duty or Saints Row to Grand Theft Auto, things like that. Two Worlds was supposed to kill The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion back in the mid-2000s, and it ended up being a messy disappointment. I tried to play Two Worlds, but it was too much for me. Over the course of 5 hours, I've experienced terrible AI, terrible graphics, unresponsive controls, over-the-top voice acting, frame rate inconsistency, and the heavy amount of jittering while on a horse. Everything else is just your everyday Eurojank hijinks. You would at least hope the community would have fixes, but not even that's available. Because of all that, my expectations were basically non-existent going into Two Worlds 2. Is it at least decent? Well, the graphics are alright, the environments are detailed, and the character models look nice, but man is it a blurry game. Depth of field is always on, and turning it off in the graphics menu does nothing. It gets too intense sometimes, activating when talking to NPCs who are close to you. It even activates while walking through town, like your boy here just activates myopia on command. I already have nearsightedness in real life, I don't need it in the games I play. This is a mostly yellow looking game. Not Deus Ex Human Revolution levels of piss yellow, not yet anyway, but yellow nonetheless. There are some variety in the maps. You get to explore a desert, a magic school, a bunch of ruins, and the swamps. They're not that memorable besides the weird ruins though. It looks really alien and cool and not yellow. The sound mixing is so shit. You can only change the overall volume and the music volume, but the music in the cutscenes is a part of the overall slider. The music overwhelms the cutscenes most of the time and the audio panning is off, so that's shitty.
Understood, Master.
The main guy's voice volume is so low compared to everyone else's, and he sounds like he's trying way too hard to be cool. If he did this in real life, the person he speaks to will keep asking him to talk louder and make him all blushed up and embarrassed.
Shouldn't a prophet?
Well, you require a little.
Also, when you skip dialogue, the subtitles skip but not the voices, so it creates this disconnect between what's going on screen and what you hear. Don't know why they did it this way, but it sucks anus and I don't like it. Overall, the game looks decent, but it has its own fair share of issues. It's very yellow, but it runs well. Gotta fix that depth of field and sound mixing though. The gameplay consists of talking to people, exploring, fighting dudes, and completing quests. You start by customizing your guy. There's a decent amount of options to choose from, but that UI is horrible. It's definitely made for controllers. There are so many options that it takes forever to go down the list. Could have at least separated it into categories. The map is split into 3 parts: the desert area, the Mage University, and where the Orcs hideout is. It's set in the land of Antalor, and you'll be spending most of your time in the desert and university. You start in the Big Batman's castle. After being rescued, you go through a set of tutorials teaching you how to play the game. It does teach you the basics, but the presentation feels so raw. The transitions between scenes are not smooth. The mage orc man kinda just gets tired from repairing a bridge you need to cross and teleports you to a dungeon to learn magic as a break and teleports you back to repairing the bridge. Isn't it more of an effort teleporting me far off to a dungeon and teach me magic instead of just resting for a few minutes? This shit's weird. Combat is pretty janky, as you may have guessed. I'll be focusing on the melee combat since that's my main playstyle. Your attacks are pretty sluggish and the controls feel unresponsive. To do a combo, you have to stand still and attack. If you move during a combo, you'll just do a lousy one-hit attack and you gotta start all over. Your attacks are kinda inaccurate as well, like the targeting system is a bit off. Kill cams are a thing in this game, but sometimes your attack changes its direction on the final blow from the camera changing, so it causes you to miss. It's hilarious. The tutorial teaches you to block enemies until it's the right time to attack, but it's so slow, and if you spam attacks, the enemies are gonna keep blocking. You can break the enemies' guard with the guard break skill, but then the game just becomes all about spamming guard break, and since it recharges so quickly and it's an area of effect attack, there's no reason not to use it. I don't know much about the magic system in this game, but from what little I've seen of it, it's really customizable and cool. You have these spell cards that you gotta change the element of and how you can fire spells. Looks fun. For stealth, you can sneak and do takedowns. Sneak behind a guy, slit their throat, juggle those nuts, and they die. Pretty self-explanatory, but why do they have to flashbang you every time? The same with entering and exiting the map. What's with two worlds and ruining my eyeballs? First is the frame rate and jittering in the first game, and now this. Wait, this is not supposed to happen? No! There aren't that many enemy types. You got the regular humanoid dudes, the bugs, the big boys, and ones that fly, but you approach them all the same. It's either spamming guard break or do a little jump attack, back off, and do it again till the dude's dead. It's pretty boring once you figure that out. There's some sections where enemies become tanky for no reason, and they come in groups, particularly in the University Ruins area, any dungeon or place with skeletons in them, and the fucking swamps with all the wasps and zombies and shit. They encouraged me to run my ass off instead of fighting, and that's not a good sign for an action RPG. There are a lot of skills to level up and unlock. The way you unlock skills is by reading skill books. Some you can find naturally by playing the game, and some you have to look for. I think this is good for encouraging exploration, but when there's just that one skill that you need to unlock and you can't find it anywhere, that's when it gets frustrating. For me, that skill is the weapon forging skill. You need it to upgrade your weapons further, and since the game is a little unbalanced, you're gonna need that extra edge. The more you level up a piece of equipment, the more crystals you can put in it that increase your stats or give you buffs. You can buy them at stores or loot them off of enemies. You can ride a horse in this game, but you have to take it everywhere you go because if you lose track of it, it's gone. I try to use the callback button, but it never works for some reason. I don't know if I used it the wrong way, but yeah, you'll be running for most of the game, so it's better to upgrade your stamina. There's a lot of looting in this game. You can sell shit for money or dismantle equipment for forging materials. Dismantling is kind of a hassle. You can't select everything you want to dismantle all at once, so you gotta do it one at a time, and the amount of time you waste doing it really adds up. I mentioned that this game is unbalanced at points. If you only do the main quests, you'll get to a point where enemies start clapping your cheeks, so you gotta do some side quests. There are actually some good side quests. I like the arena quest, the one with Riza where you get that pussy in the end. Oh, yeah! Fluffy. I was pleasantly surprised. Overall, the gameplay loop is alright. The combat's not that good and it's boring and unbalanced at points, but the way you can build your guy is neat, and so are the side quests from what I played. Before we get to the story, let's talk about the story from the first game. You play as this mercenary dude trying to save your sister Kira. This dude named Gandahar tells you to gather pieces of your family's relic to free your sister. Turns out that relic sealed an evil god named Azeral, and Gandhi wants to resurrect him using your sister as a vessel. The whole game is pretty much a collectathon. You beat Gandahar at the end, you ride off with your sister, and lived happily ever after not fucking her because she's your sister. The end. There's also some shit about a war with orcs or something like that. It's pretty generic. I've done this shit in Gothic already. Anyway, the story of Two Worlds is kinda like a remake of the first game, and it has more story beats than just going around collecting shit. This time, you and your sister, Kyra, yeah it's Kyra now, don't worry about it, are both captured by Gandahar. For 5 years, you were used as a source of energy for Kyra, so she can keep Azeral inside her? Wait, so Gandahar's not trying to revive Azeral, but instead keep him from escaping? Anyway, the orcs come to break you out because they have a bone to pick with Gandahar. There's a warrior guy, archer guy, mage guy, and a sexy woman named Darfa. They take you to a sexy mage lady named Kasara who wants to take down Gandahar, so she became the leader of the orcs. From here, you go around the map trying to get help against Gandahar's army. So, it's the story from the first game, but grander and has more things going on than just collecting relic parts. But grander doesn't mean better. It's really lacking in character development, which the devs really try to get right this time, and just overall lacks a good reason to care about the people in this game. If you don't want spoilers, skip to this timestamp. Alright, so you start off in the desert town somewhere and make your way to the big city where you're tasked to find a way into Gandahar's Tower of Fangs to find a book or some shit and work for the underground mafia for a bit. You help this mage guy form this golem army made out of Verida. Verida is a powerful resource that can do cool shit, and Gandahar used it to get to where he is today. You eventually go to Tower of Fangs to take Gandahar's journal. Apparently he made some powerful spells, so Kasara sends you to his old university in Ashos to find out more. New Ashos is my most hated area of the game. All you do is go around the university and talk to people for the most part, doing favors and shit. It reminds me of the first chapter of Alicization Licorice, and that's a bad sign. Anyway, you find Gandahar's old classmate Kyneth, and he tells you where to get the sight. The sight gives you the ability to see the past in certain locations. You go talk to these weird edgy bull guys, they tell you where to get the sight, they perform a surgery on you for you to use the sight, and go back to Kyneth. He then sends you through the old university ruins to see visions of Gandahar's young self, obsessing over power and generally just being an asshole. Gandahar used this thing called the Flaming Hearts and destroyed the old university. Kyneth tells you that Gandahar found the Flaming Heart in the swamps and tells you to go there. In the swamps, there's a little village trapped inside a barrier. The village chief says a witch is responsible, so you're tasked with killing her. She's not what she seems, obviously, and she's actually the former girlfriend of Gandahar. Her name is Nalia, and she's also younger than her witch in the forest appearance. She's also the childhood friend of Aiden from the village. I guess Gandahar came and cucked him. Nothing much to say there. You get more flashbacks with Gandahar trying to get more power, but with the witch by his side, he seems like a nicer guy, and you can see a glimpse of humanity inside him still. But that's all you get. He got what he came for and busted out of the barrier. Nalia wants you to get a spell from the chief's house, but he wants you that she's up to something and you shouldn't trust her. Later on, Aiden goes into the swamps to find you, but he dies and Nalia is sad. The chief catches up to you and reveals that he's actually the firstborn of Azeroth and he's responsible for Nalia's curse and the barrier. You kill him and they all lived happily ever. Okay, not yet. You save the village, get a demon heart from Azeroth's firstborn, get your dick sucked, and go back to Kasara. She talks some shit about this world is beautiful and want to protect it from Gandahar and all that, and you're ready to launch the attack against Gandahar's army. You go through Gandahar's multi-leveled basement and finally get to the man himself. Here's the twist. Kyra is still okay, and she has Gandahar to thank for that. In your absence, Gandahar uses life force to keep Kyra alive and Azeroth inside. From the beginning, Gandahar was not using your life force to resurrect Azeroth, but to keep him inside until he finds a way to get rid of him for good. Kasara comes in to reveal that she worships Azeroth and she's a dragon and kills Gandahar, but not before he opens a portal that lets you, Kyra, and Darva escape. Kyra tells you about Azeroth and how he doesn't like diversity in the world and have been controlling Gandahar this whole time. Basically, Azeroth is racist. You then go to this sarcophagus to seal Azeroth with a ritual on top of Gandahar's castle. Kasara flies up there to have a shitty boss fight, and you shoot her ass with giant crossbows. The ritual completes, the world is saved, Kyra becomes the emperor, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. This story is balls and full of missed potential. It's pretty boring going from one place to another. I never felt engaged or interested in anything going on. This could have been a personal story about fighting for the survival of your own kind. At the end, it's said that Azeroth is a racist and wants to wipe out all the other races except his. This could have been the theme that connects all the characters together. The orcs were defeated in their war against Gandahar and was left with no choice but to ask you, the hero, for help. This could serve as an opportunity to learn about the orcs and start a new relationship with them and humans, but we get nothing from them. They rescue you from Gandahar's prison, talk for a bit in the tutorial and beginning of chapter 1, and they're gone for the whole game until the end. Even with Darfa, she and the hero had a hint of romance going on, but that went nowhere. There's an orc for every playstyle you can pick in this game: warrior, archer, mage. So you would think that you can talk to them and they would teach you shit and learn more about them, but there's none of that. Gandahar is a shitty villain. Actually, is he even a villain? He didn't do shit this whole game. The good guy twist came out of nowhere. Why did he torture the hero instead of telling him the truth about Azeroth? Because Azeroth has been controlling him from the beginning? That one line at the end explains it, I guess, but that's lazy writing. There's no build-up or any mystery behind it. The same with Kasara. Shit just gets dumped on you at the end and there's no satisfaction to anything. I get better endings going to massage parlors. The hero refused the crown and gave it to Kyra instead because he doesn't want to rule in a castle where he was tortured for 5 years. So he gave it to Kyra, who's also been tortured there for 5 years. Yeah, that makes sense. Time for DLCs. The first one is Pirates of the Flying Fortress. The title is very misleading, but I'll explain that later. You start off getting kidnapped by pirates and they take you to an island to find treasure for them. You meet some ghost people and apparently when you leave this island, your soul and body separates. Hey, that's pretty cool. In addition to finding the treasure, you can help the ghost people too. There's some islands to explore and you can sail on a boat, but it's so damn slow that you might as well just run everywhere. The captain of the pirates wants you to find his girlfriend, I guess, and it turns out that she's been fucking with his ghost this whole time. The body of the captain is evil, I guess, and has a mind of its own, and doesn't want to reunite with his soul, so it's up to you to do it. You help the girlfriend for a bit, kill a giant salamander, and free a shaman who can help reunite the soul and body. He betrays you because the girlfriend and her sister turned him into a statue, so you whack him. With the captain's body and soul reunited, you move on to finding the treasure. The captain's lieutenant betrays him to go find the treasure himself, but you gave him the wrong directions and he dies. You go deeper into the dungeon and teleport to the Flying Fortress. Okay, so the name of this DLC is Pirates of the Flying Fortress, but there are no pirates there. There are pirates and there's a flying fortress, but no pirates in the Flying Fortress. This game is a fraud. So the treasure you're looking for is the treasure of a famous cartographer named Nanook. He's trapped in this room and takes you into his mind and traps you there. To get out, you have to do some therapy for him. He has all sorts of insecurities from a terrible childhood and school, so you have to help him in his memories to free him from his emotions. This is no doubt one of the worst sections of any video game I've ever played. No joke, the screen gets all warped and distorted. There's a piss filter during this entire section, so my eyeballs are even more ruined, and the things Nanook have you do is fucking horrendous. He has you collecting monkey shit to grow a giant penis mushroom, do chores around his family farm, and bake bread in near real time. Like you have to make the dough and watch the man stir the bowl and wait for the bread to bake. This is one of the most anti-fun shit I've ever been a part of. Look, I see what the devs are trying to do here. It's like in To the Moon, where you get to know a character by going through their life and change their memories to help them. But this is not the way to do it. If someone told me to collect monkey feces and do their chores for them, we're strangers for life. There's no chance for friendship at this point. This game did such a shitty job trying to make him seem likable. Nanook these nuts. After what felt like an eternity, Nanook is saved and you ask him for the treasure or something that helps the souls escape the island and go back to their bodies. I chose to help the souls because who cares at this point. Nanook kills himself so he can free the souls on the Flying Fortress. I gave whatever the fuck to the souls and they all lived happily ever after. The first half of the DLC is more of the main game, so if you like the main game then I guess it's fine. When it comes to Nanook, no. I'd rather yank out my pubes, wait for them to grow just to yank them out again. Don't play this, it's a waste of time. The second DLC is Call of the Tenebrae, and this is where I fucked off. After Pirates of the Flying Fortress in 2011, Reality Pump took a hiatus from Two Worlds 2, but came back with more content in 2017. But it looks like they forgot how Two Worlds 2 works during that span of time. Call of Tenebrae starts with the hero meeting with Darfa, who looks very different. She gets killed by giant rat people. Now you have to figure out what's going on and rescue Dartha, who may not be dead after all. That sounds intriguing. I want to find out what's up with the funny looking Ratman. Count me in. But the performance isn't consistent. The voice lines didn't match what's in the subtitles. I don't mean a word or two different. The entire line is just different.
Yeah, no donor blood in these veins.
Eyes.
The hell?
That happened in the main game too, but it's even more blatant here. The subtitles disappear way too quickly.
Brewed from mygospores. Its healing powers are like no other.
When I got to the cemetery with all the skeletons, that's when I gave up. Those skeletons take forever to kill and there's a bunch of them. And the dungeon is a fucking maze with no end in sight. Why is it so unbalanced here? And yes, I did pick the level up option before starting the DLC. This feels so raw and unfinished that I can't take it seriously, so whatever, I'm done. Two Worlds 2 is bad. The experience overall feels very raw and unpolished, especially the DLCs, but I got to be a psycho with two swords running through the fields and jump attacking everything in sight. It's better than the first game, and I did manage to beat the game, so there's that, but I don't feel much for it. It's like I played it, I did the shit, and I uninstalled. That's it. There's not a lot of reasons to play Two Worlds 2. If you want Eurojank, you played Piranha Bytes or Spiders games, so this is just not needed. Its existence is unnecessary, and it's kinda sad. It's really cheap on sale if you're curious, but yeah, I'd rather not, to be honest. Thanks for watching, see you next time whenever that is, later.